Welcome to our semi-monthly board meeting. First thing I'll do is I'll open the meeting to the public. We have Renee McFarland here from the Clinton County IDA to give us a little brief on IDA stuff. Have you met all the board? You know, so?
I don't think I have. Hi.
Okay. Trustee Dart,
Okay.
Trustee Menard, myself, Trustee LeBlanc, and Trustee Arnold.
How are you? So my name is Renee McFarland. I'm the Executive Director of the Clinton County IDA and Capital Resource Corporation, and also on the other side, I'm the Economic Development Director of the county. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about what I do, what the IDA can do. Trustee LeBlanc and I got to have this conversation a few months ago. So the IDA can do is there are a few different mechanisms through which we can provide tax incentives to developers or really industry looking to come in from outside the area and either build or our existing industrial or development expand, help retain jobs, keep them here. Some people look to go outside of the area with tax incentives to get them to stay. We do that through a few different mechanisms. Sales tax exemptions throughout the construction process. That would be your construction materials, things that you use to construct, so like your tools, whether you purchase them, fixtures for the facility, etc. We also do payment in lieu of tax arrangements. We always work with our taxing jurisdictions to do those. The board has not, in my knowledge, ever gone without the blessing of the taxing jurisdictions to engage in those. We also do tax-exempt industrial revenue bonds, which is not something that you guys really need as a municipality. You can bond that in your own projects if you want. And then we have bonds, yeah, that's about it. Oh, and for Capital Resource Corporation, we can do loans. Those are more for specific facilities, so if like the Boys and Girls Club wanted to build or expand, we could help on that side. We did a BHSN new building. I don't want to be boring. The IDA is a very functional entity. We can do some other more creative things. Some other IDAs own industrial parks or buildings. We have not historically really engaged in anything like that. That doesn't mean we couldn't in the future. And I can tell you about some of our projects. Monahan Medical has, I'm sure everyone knows, medical device manufacturer in Plattsburgh. They were looking to expand. They outgrew their manufacturing space. So we actually just closed on a project with them. They will be building a new, approximately $10 million facility on the old airport, on the site of the old airport. They'll be adding 8 new jobs, plus retaining all their existing jobs with the potential for more administrative additions on that as well. And if you have questions, maybe that would be a good place to go from here.
How can the IDA assist us in attracting businesses in the village, new businesses?
So historically, the Clinton County IDA is not engaged to go out on the front lines and recruit businesses.
Right.
As far as attracting businesses, you can always offer anyone who's interested in establishing themselves here that they come to us for those different tax incentives. And that can help the bottom line cost of developing. It also gives potential businesses an incentive to come here as opposed to Ohio to build their projects.
We'd like to think about acquiring some incubator space for small businesses to start up. How could the IDA help us with that? We understand we would have fees involved in certain aspects, but how could that be a possible partnership with the IDA?
So in some places, IDAs, like I said, manage like industrial parks or buildings, things like that. Our IDA is not historically engaged in that.
Okay.
Like I said, that doesn't foreclose the possibility in the future.
Okay.
The IDA generally takes an interest in the property, like there will be on the title. I don't think at this point have the capacity to do something like that. The county economic development side, however, we could definitely work with the village to figure out what you guys need to set up an incubator. Like, what does that really mean? I know what an incubator space is, but what is all the work that goes
That's
in
right.
on the other side? So we would certainly work with you on something like that.
We'd love to partner with you folks on ideas like that. That's certainly, that's our vision for economic development as just as cornerstone, the one smaller part of economic development.
Yeah, and I think that one of the things the board wanted when they hired me as an executive director is, you know, the idea has generally been behind the scenes, we're tools to help incentivize economic development and growth in the county. And that still is the function, but I think they wanted someone who'd be willing to go out on a limb and do more of that other work to help, you know, the village of Rouses Point figure out what you'll need to get to the point where you can have an incubator space. What does it take to attract people to come in and utilize that space? How much space do you realistically need, et cetera, et cetera. So if you have really for something like that or any other projects, I think the best thing to do is call me.
Sure.
And we can figure out where to go from there.
That's great.
I do want to mention something. I know ERS investments in the old Pfizer property is a pretty hot topic. And I was talking to Steve about this a little earlier. He suggested I bring it up. So down in the village of Sleepy Hollow, they had a GM there on like 100 acres, waterfront space. And when GM in 1985 started threatening to leave, the IDA down there was used as a tool to keep them. They engaged in a pilot agreement and other things like that. And by 1990, and it was supposed to be a 30-year agreement, but by 1995, they decided to shut down and everything. So when you have a property, an environmentally challenged property like that, there's a lot of liability associated with potentially transferring that property. So what GM did is, in 95, started remediating everything, threw up a fence, and walked away. And it took the village over 20 years to be able to get that property from them to actually repurpose it for something. Now, GM wasn't willing to sell that property or transfer the liability for it because the bottom line is they would still be on the hook for any issues that popped up down the road. And there wasn't any buyer who GM was willing to take the risk transferring that liability for. So I think that the fact that Pfizer vetted ERS to the point, and I mean, I know you guys have spoken to the folks at ERS, they went through a very long, significant vetting process before Pfizer would even consider engaging with them to transfer the property. So I think that the village of Rouses Point and the county as a whole are very fortunate that someone with at least what Pfizer considers to be like the chops and the ability to turn that property into something productive is a really, really promising notion.
You know, I'm sure the village is very interested in protecting the citizens' interest and our interest in anything to do with the Pfizer property. And yeah, it is a concern that they will just throw up a fence and plant grass,
Right.
and that's all we'll be looking at. So,
Well, like I said, I know you've spoken with the ERS. I think that they have personal investment and financial investment in making this property succeed. And because they have ownership of it, you know, before we jump the gun on being concerned about them throwing up a fence about the property, I think because they are the owners and they have this vision for it, some very real plans in the works, that what I can do as the IDA is to help engage with them when they submit an application, because they have not submitted an application to the IDA yet. But when they submit an application, we can help provide those tax incentives so that they can more affordably get things up and running.
look forward to working with you folks.
Thank you. I look forward to working with you all as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Randy. Okay, Anyone else from the public wish to address the board at this time? If not, you'll have another chance at the end of the meeting. Okay, minutes of the previous meetings of January 7th and a special meeting of January 15th. Are there any errors, omissions, or corrections anyone would like to make?
I make a motion that bill, or the minutes be accepted as read.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, bills. Treasurer, are there any additions or deletions?
We have one addition this evening, it's NYSEC in the amount of $7,404.87. Our monthly bill, transmission charges.
Okay.
I make a motion the bill be paid.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Okay, correspondence.
No correspondence this evening.
All right. Okay, a bunch of stuff here tonight. First thing before I forget is I would like to, on behalf of the board, thank the Public Works crew for the excellent job they did on snow removal over this blizzard we had this weekend. I know they've been working pretty much around the clock, and the roads are all open and in good shape, and they're trying to catch up on the sidewalks. They had an equipment failure on the sidewalk, probably the old one, and I think they've got it back running now. But they really stepped up to the plate this weekend. First resolution I have is one we should have done last meeting, but didn't get to it. This is for the hometown cable. It's a resolution in support. Whereas Hometown Cable has been providing cable access programming in our area since 1983, and whereas over the past 3.5 decades, our taxpayers and cable TV subscribers in our franchise area have grown to rely on Hometown Cable for our public educational and governmental programs, and whereas Hometown Cable is presently providing coverage of approximately 500 news events in our immediate viewing area annually, as well as sharing our history from their 20,000+ local video library, and whereas it is a universal franchise requirement that the cable TV provider Spectrum provide public access channels for public educational and governmental programming, and whereas Hometown Cable is no longer able to provide a leased channel but wishes to continue to provide their local content programming on public access channel, and whereas due to the volume of content provided by Hometown Cable, sharing a PEG channel with so many regional communities is highly impractical. Now be it therefore resolved that we respectfully request to have a dedicated PEG channel exclusive to our 5-town, 2-village cable subscriber area, so as to provide continued timely coverage of our local school, community, governmental, and historical programming. And I move that to the floor.
So moved.
I need a second.
Second.
Okay. This will do a roll call vote. Trustee Arnold?
Aye.
Trustee Dart?
Aye.
Trustee Menard?
Aye.
Trustee LeBlanc? The mayor votes aye. Now, the next one I have here is, this is a resolution pertaining to the grant that we recently received notification of. And as presented, it's kind of confusing, at least it was to me. So I had discussions with it and found out exactly what this is, and I'll try to explain as best I can to you. It's, first off, it's a boilerplate resolution adapted from New York State Office of Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation. Okay, and the key to it is the third paragraph. I'm missing a word in here, but it says, I'll read the whole thing in a minute, but it's that we agree to the terms and conditions of the master contract. So you'd ask, well, what's the terms and conditions we're voting to accept? So I got them. We supply a boundary map, a copy of our property deed. This is for the rec center. Opinion of our lawyer that we own it. Signed authorization, which is what this is, and a secret thing. Basically what it is, as I understand, this whole resolution is about that they're giving us $213,000 grant for recreational things, and they want to make sure it's being put on village property. And that's what this boils down to, but it just doesn't say it in so many words. And then at the end, you're authorizing the mayor to sign it. That we're agreeing to this. So I'll read this. someone can second it for discussion. If there's any more discussion before we vote on it, we can do that too, okay? Whereas the Village of Rouses Point applied for financial assistance from the New York State Office of Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation, hereby known as OPRHP, under the Environmental Protection Fund Grant Program for Parks Preservation and Heritage purposes of funding the Rouses Point Parks Planning and Revitalization Project. Whereas the Village of Rouses Point is authorized to accept these grant funds in an amount not to exceed $213,000 for the project described in the grant application. And whereas the Village of Rouses Point Board is authorized to agree to the terms and conditions of the master contract with OPRHP for such Rouses Point Parks Planning and Revitalization Project. And whereas the Village of Rouses Point is authorized to agree to the terms and conditions of any required deed of easement granted to OPRHP that affects title to real property owned by the municipality and improved by the grant funds which may be duly recorded public access covenant, conservation easement, or preservation covenant. Resolved, the governing body of the municipality designates the assigning authority to execute the master contract and required deed easement to the following elected municipal office, position title mayor. So I'll move that to the floor. I'll need a second.
Second.
Okay, second for discussion. Now, basically, the second last paragraph, I don't think applies in this case because we're not going to be deeding over or changing any of our property. I believe the gist of this is that the $213,000 is spent according to the requirements here on village-owned property.
Question, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
It says in there, according to the grant application, that's what the money has to be spent on.
Yes.
What was in that grant application?
That's the administrator, he filled it out.
Yeah, that was filled out and voted on by the board. That was part of the process. But the ultimately what's in it is streetscape improvements, parking lot expansion, playground, dugouts, leveling fields, repairing or replacing fence, resurfacing tennis courts if needed, and the basketball court, and fixing the fence over there, and then baseball field fences for safety and keeping kids and spectators safe. Bleachers as well.
And I think there's room in there for some input from the board as we progress further.
Yes, there can be.
You know, if you got something else you want to stick in there, I think we've got a little wiggle room in there. Okay, have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None? They requested an aye and a nay count. Okay. Next thing I have is the CMES report. This is the year-end one. I thought it would be of interest to the board. Tells the number of calls. December we had 14. This is ambulance calls by Champlain. I imagine there's additional calls on the weekends that our department handles itself, but not reflected on this, of course. And then it has the breakdown by month. And I believe it didn't break them down by month for the village, it just did their total calls. But anyways, that's the kind of report we get. We get the monthly one every month and then the annual one here. Resolution. I have a budget resolution. This is just adjusting funds to reflect money that's already been spent on projects that have already been voted on or approved in past list of bills. Whereas the Board of Trustees deems it advisable to make certain modifications to the 2018-19 village budget, be reserved for the resolve that the treasurer is authorized and directed to make the following modifications to the village budget for the fiscal year. General fund appropriations increased $37,762, decreased $3,500, and the net result is the decreased and appropriated fund balance goes down by $34,000 $262, and the increase in appropriations, which is what those are, is $34,262. I'll move that to the floor for a second.
Second.
Now, if anybody has any questions, basically, it's tidying up the budget as we go along through the fiscal year. It keeps our son happy, and I found out that's always a good policy. So, we'll have a roll call vote. Trustee Arnold?
Aye.
Trustee Dart?
Aye.
Trustee Menard?
Aye.
Trustee LeBlanc? The mayor votes aye. Okay, the next one is Resolution 2019-08, Inspectors of Election. This is appointing the three people that do the elections. Pursuant to Article 15, Section 116 of 1979 State of New York election law, the Board of Trustees of Rouses Point is charged with adopting a resolution appointing the inspectors of election and appointing a chairperson. Therefore, the Board of Trustees of the Village of Rouses Point does hereby resolve that the inspectors of election shall be Mary Rassico, Chief Inspector, Muriel LaFave, and Claude Letourneau. The chairperson shall be, well, we already said that, the chairperson shall be Mary Rassico. The compensation shall be fixed at $12.88 an hour for the chairperson and $12.10 for an hour for the inspectors. I move that to the floor.
So move.
Second.
Okay. Roll call vote. Trustee Arnold.
Aye.
Trustee Dart.
Aye.
Trustee Menard.
Aye.
Trustee LeBlanc. The mayor votes aye. Okay, now, something came to my attention just before the last meeting, and I was unable to act on it quickly enough. As you know, we have a number of employees of Homeland Security and other federal agencies that live in the village that are adversely affected by the government shutdown. It was requested of me that if the village could waive late fees for their village utility bills. So what I'd like to do is I propose a resolution here that Rouses Point agrees, the village agrees to suspend late charges on village utility bills for the furloughed federal employees, and this waiver will remain in effect until 1 month after the government shutdown ends. So in other words, they're not going to be reduced in what they owe for their electric bills. It's just that when they do pay them, after they get their big check, we're not going to charge them the $4 or $5 a month or whatever it would be for the late fees.
Sounds great.
I'll make that motion.
No second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, I think it's a good thing to do. I've tentatively set up or figured out a little idea. We'll have some form that they just sign when they come in that says that they are in that category. So we don't have somebody that isn't, that is getting paid, and, I don't think there'd be a problem. It's just to keep us straight. I request an executive session to discuss the employment history of a particular employee. Need a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, then I request a second executive session to discuss contract negotiations.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, and then we have the NICOM Winter Conference. Trustees Dart and LeBlanc will be attending both days. I've signed off on the travel authorization. I'll be going down for the second day only and staying overnight, coming back the next day, so I'll be down 1 day and 1 night. So those are all approved, and everybody's been registered. And that's all I have, I believe, for right now. Trustee Arnold?
What do we have on any more on our electrical study that we had, that we voted on? Is there anything?
Okay, that's still, that's up in the air. We left it at 2 meetings ago for the board to study it anymore and decide if they wanted to go ahead with it or not. If you're ready to take action on it, yes or no, we can do it tonight, or we can do further study because it's not time sensitive right now.
Percent.
Yes.
I was, excuse me, I was going to report later on that The auditors will be coming up January 31st and February 1st, weather permitting, to do the Section 408 audit. So if you guys have any questions then.
Okay, well then let's put this on the agenda for the first meeting in February, and then it'll give anybody on the board that wants to talk to these auditors when they're here on, what was the date, our son?
31st and 1st.
Okay?
Sounds good.
Okay. All right,
Or you can wait till they have the report out, so whatever.
okay.
Arsen, can you tell me how much money the historian has in her account?
Not off the top of my head.
Not off the top of your, oh, okay, I didn't know if you had some.
I mean, I can tell you tomorrow.
Okay, no. Okay, I'd like to, Donna asked me to ask the board if she can get a computer and a printer.
Computer's in my office. Just got it.
Brand new one?
No, it's not brand new, but it's, well, Steve, tell her what you got. You got it from the county.
Yeah, it was Windows 7. It's going to be, for what she's been using it for, it should be satisfactory. So that we have Twin State coming at some point to get it installed.
How old is this computer?
Few years old. The age isn't that relevant. I don't know for sure.
It's not like it's like a 10 or 15-year-old.
Right,
It's
it's,
not like the one in the,
what
like the one
matters
that
is what-
Mr. Cooper has right now.
Yeah, what platform it's running is what matters, and it has to be Windows 7 or above.
Well, I think she deserves a new computer. I can't see her, I mean, she's been a historian for, I don't know, 12 years or so and stuff, and a
Well-
new computer and a new printer, I mean, for the amount of money that,
Well, let me offer this up. We hook this thing up, see if it works, see if she's happy, and at the same time, put it in the budget request that's coming up like now. We're doing budgets. For June 1st, it'll go into effect, but we'll be voting on it in April.
okay, her computer is shot.
Yeah, I'm aware of that.
Yeah.
I mean, we're gonna set it all up, it's just, which way we can do it the best.
What about a copier?
Do you have any copiers?
No, the copier we want, I'd like to go pick out at like Staples or something. We don't want a complicated one. That's all we mostly do. We do a lot of enlargement pictures and stuff like that. We want one that we can.
Oh,
use.
I'm thinking, okay, you want a copier more than you want a printer.
Right.
Or you want a copier, a printer that copies.
A printer, it's a printer copier.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll tell you what, why don't you get together when you want to, tomorrow or the next day, with our son and administrator, and see if you can pick help out, get an idea. You can look at Staples, you can look right online, you don't even have to go down there and see what's,
Yeah.
And
Well, I'd like to
see,
look
he
at
can
it.
tell you how much money we got, and you can kind of.
Yeah, well, I'd like to look at it to see if we can, it's compatible to the one that we got up there right now.
Right.
I mean, this one upstairs, I mean, it's, well, we bought that in 2002.
I'd say you're due for a new one, Ben.
Yeah, I would say so. So anyhow,
So we'll just work out the logistics of it, and we'll have it all set up, and like I say, maybe we can get the printer quicker than we can get the other computer,
yeah, okay. And also, do we have a report on the monies that come in on the skating rink?
Yeah, it's right here.
We got a financial report here from
Yep.
Oh, you got it?
pages earlier.
Oh,
That was done in
oh,
the
okay.
section.
Oh, the print's so small, I can't see it.
Yeah, I was gonna go through that in
right.
my reporting.
When we get to him,
Okay.
we're gonna go through that, okay?
Okay, thank you. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you, trustee Dart.
Just a couple of things I suppose we could call this like old business. I'm going to want an executive session for the employment history of two individuals. One may be, or both of them may be who you're going to talk about, but I would like that in the form of a motion as to that.
Okay, a motion, I need a second.
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 All in favor?
Aye.
And also, this is going to be in the form of a motion. This is something we talked about at the last meeting. I'd like a motion for an allocation of $200,000 for economic development seed money. This is for that, so we may take any immediate action or request to engage or ventures or startups or small acquisitions in conjunction with Clinton County IDA, who we very graciously heard from earlier, and I'm very happy they were here. And for anything else that we may need to protect the village interest of the Pfizer property. And as I had mentioned at the last meeting, we had $250,000 set aside at one time for a police department, for a court system. I know that we've had to wrestle with the ambulance fees and whatever else, so I feel by asking for $200,000, and we don't know exactly what part of this that we can say that we're gonna want back from folks, because we'd like to see some money rolled back into this fund. But we haven't put the plan together yet, but without a plan of action, we can't really move forward with anything, so I'm putting that in the form of a motion, and would like a second.
Second.
Okay, we have an motion and a second to, I'm not sure exactly what, but $200,000 from someplace to put into a fund.
Let me explain it, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, I'd
It's
like
pretty
it.
simple. It's pretty simple. In order to attract new businesses, and we're not talking Pfizer, we're talking other businesses that people have wanted for a number of years. We need to provide some type of place for these businesses to move into. Nobody's moving in here voluntarily for building. The economy is just not there and won't be there. What we have to do is get some of these buildings, rehab them, get them suitable for new tenants, or some bigger tenants for larger projects. Hopefully we'll recover some of that money back. Obviously, we're not giving these buildings away, but we need to get these buildings back online and get some jobs back in the community. And so hopefully we'll get a deli or supermarket and a few other like-type businesses here that we've lost over the past years. So the money is that, it's a rolling fund. We develop something, hopefully it gets sold, money comes back, the IDA hopefully can assist. They have a fee structure well deserved, and everybody wins.
That part I understand with and I don't necessarily disagree with it. What I think you're doing here is you're getting the cart before the horse. You have to have a mechanism to distribute this money and to, according to state regulations, and you have to have that in place before you fund it. You can't just put money in a slush fund and say we're going to give it out here and there. We couldn't possibly transfer that money someplace and then be writing checks against it without some kind of a format to do it in,
I
a
think,
legal
Mr. Mayor,
format.
the motion was to allocate the budget $200,000, not to take out of current funds. So we are going to put.
Are you talking in the
mechanisms
new
place.
budget?
Correct. We don't have $200,000 to take out now.
Well, no, but that, I wasn't clear on that.
I'm
because-
sorry, I meant for the.
In other words, you're asking to be, okay, so what you do there is you put that, you get one of the budget forms and you put it on there and just submit it. And then when we get the budget, when I get all the papers assembled and corrections and I'll sit down with our son, we'll have, I'm planning to have at least 2 budget workshops with the board to go through these things page by page, the whole budget, or most of it anyway. But in the meantime, so that can be done, that doesn't need a motion or voting or anything at this point. You just submit a budget request. That's the procedure for doing that. You put it on a piece of paper, you hand it in. Now, when it gets voted on, is when we vote to accept the budget. And by that time, you should have a place for that money to specifically go to. Now, am I saying this about right, Arsen?
Yeah, that's the proper procedure, yes.
And you have to have it set up where it's going. You can't just set it aside in the budget someplace and say, at some point, we're gonna need this for something. Because audit and control won't let you do that. And that's anything in the budget, whether we're all in agreement with it or not, it has to be done a certain way. And our son is more on top of this than I am. I usually defer to him on a lot of this stuff, but I mean, I've done this enough for enough years to know that you can't just budget, allocate money for some program that never existed before, all right?
That's all I have then for tonight.
Okay, so you want to just withdraw that for now and go the other way?
I'll withdraw it for now, and I'll make sure that I look after the paperwork for
Right.
the budget.
Arsen, would you give him the sheet that he'll need for that? You know, blank, or Donna?
I'll try to find the correct wording by then too, so that we can have a greater discussion on it in one of these budget meetings.
That's when the proper time for it to come up, was when we're talking about the
Okay.
budget.
All right. Just didn't want to pass the opportunity by to
All right,
look up for our needs.
Okay, anything else?
No, I'm all set, thank you.
Trustee Menard?
I was gonna go over the rec center comparison, but Steve, Mr. Peters has his numbers all together, so I'll let him do that. I just wanted to, I came to a hockey game a couple of weekends ago and heard a lot of positive comments about the skate sharpener and the open skate and the skate rentals. A lot of people were very happy. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Trustee LeBlanc?
We've got a number of items. One is a quick discussion on the water plant. I know Mr. Mary and I, before the meeting, got up to date, I think, on the same page. As long as everybody knows that our water plant, as the mayor has pointed out in his public communications, is very old. And although the public works has had a plan in place to keep the plant going for a number of years, that time elapses fast. And I think the mayor and the administrator are going to engage several engineering firms to provide RFPs, correct, Mr. Mayor? So that we can get an actual head start.
We're doing one RFP right now that will launch out into several more. In other words, our engineering firm that we're using right now is going to put that together for the board's consideration, that at the next meeting we'll have it. And that will launch out to request more engineering forms and proposals.
So just want the board to, be aware, I think that this is a high priority project, even though it's a multi-year project, but time flies. And,
Oh, yeah.
if there's no water.
You have to start somewhere.
Just a couple things. One came up is from the fire department, and that's I know there's no collision in most of those vehicles, Mr. Mayor, and you explained the reason for that very thoroughly, and I have no issue with that. However, they have expressed their desire to have collision insurance in those trucks very strongly, and therefore in this budget cycle, I want to see collision put on trucks. I represent them, that's the feedback they gave me, and,
Would you put it back in the budget?
yeah.
Yes.
We'll vote on it then.
I don't quite understand. We have full collision on the ambulance because that's a lot of road miles on it. The rest of the trucks are driven a couple of hundred miles a year, and we have a self-insurance fund to pay for any fender benders or anything that they get into. Insurance policy they had before, which was not very long in duration, maybe a few years, was more like a lottery system, where if they lost a truck, they'd get a brand new truck to replace it. In other words, you got a truck that's worth about $20,000 or you've seen what we get for them when we sell them. $5,000 to $10,000 truck, and they would get $1 million truck in replacement for it. And that's a lottery system, that's not insurance. And what you're doing is you're saying, okay, if the whole fire station burns down, we get a whole brand new set of trucks. But the likelihood of that happening is so remote that the insurance companies can actually offer that type of insurance because they know that they're probably almost never gonna have to pay out on it. In the meantime, you keep building up, I think I'm not sure exactly off the top of my head, but I think it was around $8,000 a year premium for that. 10 years, that's $80,000. That's more than they've paid for any of the last 3 trucks that they bought, or that would have paid for the last 3. So, I mean, this is what you gotta balance. And, we're representing the fire department and that we want them to have good equipment and good running and safe equipment. But we're also representing the taxpayers that are footing the bill for this whole thing, and they want the best and safest equipment. But I'm not sure, that we have a self-insurance fund that would fix anything that would normally happen other than catastrophic failure. And even that, now that the new policy, self-generated internally with the fire department, is to replace equipment with used equipment. They don't buy new anymore except for the ambulance. We've got enough to cover that. We could probably, just looking at the way the last 3 trucks they bought, we've got enough to pay for 3 or 4 trucks at a time.
Do we know how much is in that self-insurance fund?
About 157,000, something like that, around 150, I believe.
So we take one of our fire trucks out and we roll it over totally.
Right.
And so, 2 things that immediately come to mind. First thing is, without an insurance company representing those trucks, then we are on the hook for not only being down that truck, but trying to find a suitable truck to replace it. And let's just say we don't get the bargains that we've been getting on these trucks. That $164,000 between a couple accidents could be sucked up pretty quick and be gone. I know the fire chief personally told me that he went out on a call recently with a truck, and even him being an expert driver, he told me he was very, very nervous with the road conditions. And making him nervous was the fact too that he didn't have any collision on these trucks. Or not collision, collision, is it?
We have liability.
Liability we have, right. And
Yeah.
so he was very nervous in driving this truck, and, so you've got a fire chief with those concerns, and it echoes right down through their men, and I wouldn't, I wouldn't want to see that somebody be nervous about driving a truck and that cut down on the availability of our drivers. So I think it only makes sense to put that insurance back on the vehicles.
When you look at the past history of it, all of Clinton County, if they ever totaled a truck, in the last, say, 20 years, all the fire departments altogether, I don't know of any that's ever totaled a truck. I think they totaled an ambulance when one of the drivers had a heart attack or something there.
Let's look at the insurance and make sure that we have the right insurance for what we're looking for. So if it is a replacement of a truck, then
That's what the other insurance was. It was a full replacement. You take a 20-year-old truck and they give you a brand new one. But you don't have that on your car insurance.
Right.
If you have collision on your cars, you don't have that. They give you whatever it's valued at. This particular insurance they had was this, well, anyways, I've said enough about that for now. Okay, here's, where else on?
Next
Still on?
item is advisory report. A couple things here that we should consider. One is I made my statements on my position very well known on the Pfizer property. And I do want to see action taken by the board, so I'm going to make a motion as following. It's a motion to authorize the attorney of the Village of Rouses Point to provide all legal options and procedures available to the village in order to secure ownership of Pfizer Buildings 1 and 2, and any other Pfizer property that is deemed essential to the future enrichment of the residents of the Village of Rouses Point. This motion also authorizes the attorney of the Village of Rouses Point to ensure that the appropriate state and or federal agencies are engaged in a complete environmental review of Pfizer property after all demolition work is completed. That's the motion.
I'll second that motion.
Have a motion and a second. Roll call vote. Trustee Arnold?
No.
Trustee Menard?
no.
Trustee Dart?
Yes.
Trustee LeBlanc?
Aye.
Mayor votes no.
My next item, Mr. Mayor, is an expense of, I think it's $3,200 for an investigation into an incident here at the board meeting. And I believe there were 2 attempts to obtain documents, public documents related to that SciTech report. And I think both attempts to obtain documents were not complied with, and so we had to submit a Freedom of Information Act request for both those. And do you know of any other instance where people have had to go to the extent of getting the Freedom of Information Act request to get public documents?
No, I'm not aware of any
Well,
incident like that.
it's disgraceful that you have prevented this
I haven't
situation.
prevented anything. I didn't say a word.
We requested documents, and you, as the mayor of the village, did not allow this to happen.
No, I didn't.
We asked.
You asked the attorney, and he said you have to FOIA.
We
That's
did.
what he said. Now, if we want to discuss this further in executive session, the attorney's here tonight. You want to do that? Because I don't know anything other than what happened at the meeting, the same as you. In fact, you know more than I do because you followed up past the meeting.
Yes, I did. Another item, it was brought to my attention that there was a meeting between myself and the administrator and the Sportsman's Club. Just a bit of general discussion on options related to the future of the Sportsman's Club. To my knowledge, I'll make this a public record, the administrator asked me to attend and said that the Sportsman's Club asked for this meeting. So I'm happy to attend. We had a fruitful discussion, I thought, and the village made no commitments. But I want to put this on the record. The administrator asked me to be there at the request of the Sportsman's Club, not the other way around. That's it for that.
Oh, I don't quite understand what you mean. I'm not questioning you, I just don't understand. You went to the meeting and everything went fine, right?
I
I
was,
don't know anything about this, that's what I'm asking.
well, you were there, that's fine. I'm just saying, it was mentioned, it was suggested, or the word is, that the village called the meeting. No, I didn't call the meeting. I was asked by the administrator to attend it, and the administrator said that the Sportsman's Club called the meeting. Now, they denied that, from what I've been told. Now, I don't know, because I'm the third party to this, but I'm stating for the record. That's what I was told, and that's why I attended the meeting.
Okay. I know that they have contacted us informally last summer, just kind of preliminarily, generally asking if we'd be interested in taking it over. And what we said was, we're not closing the door on it. We're just saying, you know, if this comes up, we're not saying no, we're not saying yes, we'll just see how it evolves and keep an open mind on it. And it's their call because it's their property.
Back in 1986, when I was president of the Sportsman's Club, we brought that to the village because we were in dire need of money and stuff like
That's when
that.
they upped the assessment.
Right.
Yeah.
And so Al O'Brien was the superintendent of the village, and he was vice president, I was president. We brought it to the village and asked if we went defunct on the property, or the taxes or whatever, and couldn't pay them, if the village would take it over, but it only could be used exactly as what it is now. And that was, like I said, back in '86, and nothing was ever done. We recovered and stuff like that, and everything.
And I think they're looking at it kind of that, what their options are. The impression I got is they were asking what, if this was one of the options that they could think about. We haven't pushed it, we're just kind of keeping an open mind about the whole thing. It hasn't gone any farther than that. And other than that one time last summer, when I wasn't even talked to personally by Melissa, it was just, she asked somebody in the office, they asked me what I thought, I said, keep an open mind on it. You know, when they come up with something more firm, we'll bring it up to the board, you know. But it never got anything past that, you know, just asking a question. That's all I know about it. I mean, I think we should keep an open mind on it, you know, it's a nice facility, but we're not trying to push it, take it away from them or anything like that, you know. Anything else? All right, other reports. I guess the first one will be Administrator Steve, you got the trailhead and the rec center financial report here.
Yeah, so so as far as the trailhead goes, I've provided everybody with some engineered drawings for what they would like to do. They've also requested that the mayor sign a letter of understanding, which you've also, I believe, been provided with. That letter, a lot of this, they're under the gun a little bit to kind of get things rolling. I am under the impression that they're looking to do this fairly soon, meaning this year, possibly this spring. So they really want to get moving on this. There's no investment from the village. They originally provided one option which put the trailhead at the corner of the property where the clothespins are, which was not what the engineers had originally said and not what you all had agreed upon to be a suitable location. And they were also kind of minimizing it. And one of the bigger reasons was that you wouldn't be able to see it from the north as you're driving down the road. I don't think it would be blocked. So we kind of pushed back a little bit. They gave us then two options for where they originally said they were going to put it, which is right around the digital sign So option one, simply, I mean, it's there, surrounding the sign with some lower plantings that kind of dress up that area. And I would guess I would call it a symmetrical approach. Option two puts it a little bit more off-center to the sign with a slightly different look or feel to it. And so the engineers would like to know what the board's feeling is on which one you would prefer at that location. They have said that this trailhead far exceeds what other places are getting because they recognize the importance of Rouses Point's location at the absolute corner of the state and the closest spot to Canada and to Montreal, where there are a tremendous amount of cyclists. So they're giving us a little bit more, and I mean, ultimately, you don't have to make a selection today if you don't want to. I do ask that you consider having the mayor sign that letter of understanding so that they can kind of proceed further. If you have questions on these options or there's a clear-cut favorite, that we can move ahead with that as well. As I've said, they're looking for expediency to just kind of get this rolling. They've got something like 65 of these things around the state they got to do. So they're really trying to cut it in and get it done. So if you have any questions about that, let me know. And if there's something I don't know, I'll get the answer for you.
I would,
Can we vote on it now?
yeah, I would, just let me say this. Looking at the two options, option one, option two, they're essentially the same. I would vote for option one because option two moves the whole thing to the north, closer to the exit. Well, that also crowds the bottle box and the other thing for trucks backing up to them to empty them out. You know, it's moving it, I can't tell exactly here, but maybe about, looks like about 20 feet closer maybe.
I like the seating in the center anyway, that looks
Yeah.
better.
Yeah, I think so.
Option one,
Yeah.
Option one was really balanced.
yeah.
But you pick up on this corner right here.
Yeah.
That's where it gets tight.
Okay. I like option one.
That's gonna take up a lot of the space of the parking lot. 35 feet? 34 feet?
Well, the part that I questioned and I don't like and I'm not in favor of it at all, it's not only 34 feet, but we're losing 2 spots for handicap parking. And,
Well, the handicap parking is up here.
oh, there's another one right next to this.
Well, yeah, I
They
know, I
added
see
2 more
that, yeah.
spots.
Yeah.
And one of them isn't even to park on.
Yeah.
And that kind of bothers me because this is a seasonal thing, seasonal use facility. And
Well, you gotta have,
technically,
for a van, so the person.
no, but I mean,
For the
like
handicap.
this time of the year, nobody's gonna be using that for bicycling.
Right.
So you got 2 designated handicap spots in the middle of winter that nobody can use because they're the opposite side from the building that we're gonna be using. That's one of the things I didn't like. Maybe we could just bag the sign. When it's, you know, like the way they put it over a parking meter that's out of commission or something, in the wintertime. Then maybe that'd be an option. You know, after the bicycle season's over, and say Thanksgiving or something, just put a bag over and get 2 more parking spots, because we're pretty tight without them. We're losing, looks like if they're 8 feet, looks like we're losing 6 of them, huh?
Do we need a motion?
No, not
to,
6, 4 of them.
Do we need a motion to have the mayor sign this?
Yes.
I make a motion that we authorize the mayor to sign
MOU.
the MOU for option one.
Yes, I'll second that.
Okay, any other discussion on this? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Next one, Steve?
Thank you. Yeah, so you've asked for some kind of financial accounting of what's going on at the recreation center. And I can say through 10 years of trying to provide financial accounting for recreation centers, it doesn't work like a profit and loss statement that you might be used to looking at because of where the money comes from, how it's being spent, and how people are allocated throughout the year. So it gets to be fairly complex to do it in a standard accounting kind of manner. And really, what I've provided you, I will readily admit, is fairly complex. But what this does is it shows where we are this year in a given week versus where we were last year in a given week. So you've got a bunch of rows, 2 boxes, one's for last year, 2017, 2018, one's for this year, 2018, 2019. And the things that I think matter the most, if you're not interested in studying it, or if you are, that's fine. If you got any questions, let me know. But the things that matter the most really are the bottom rows, where the summaries of all the different columns are. In the bottom right corner of each large box has got a percentage. What that ultimately is a revenue as percentage of expense. And, you know, for last year, we were at 73%, which means for every dollar you spent at the rec center, 73 cents came back as revenue. This year, right now, at the same time, we're at 87%, which is a little bit better. And ultimately, what we've done is we're not spending as much initially. We know that we've had staffing shortages in the fall, which skews these numbers, definitely does. But what I see as most encouraging is 9 of the last 12 weeks we've been running cash positive, or very close to it. So right on that edge, and it's been showing. I think in the facilities, the rental hours are going up. As Trustee Menard had mentioned, we are receiving good feedback on the skate sharpener and on our open skates as we kind of gear that up. So, and in fact, in the last 3 weeks, we've had more money made in our pro shop than we did in the first 3 months. So it's not a lot of money, but every couple dollars represents somebody either running a pair of skates or getting on the ice for open skate. And, you know, that is, you know, children, that's families, that's people using the facility the way we want them to. So for that, I think we're going right now in the right direction. As I said, probably about a year ago, maybe less than a year ago, it's going to take 2 years to really get a good trend to see how this is going. But you can look week by week and gauge it to how it's somewhat improving over time. Jess had asked me to, she can't be here right now, she's got a medical thing she's addressing, but she had asked me to just let you know that they've rented between 50 and 60 pairs of skates so far. They, in fact, didn't count in the very beginning. You know, I think it was either Kevin or Aaron was on renting them out. They didn't count, but they know they're in that range. They've sharpened about 50 pairs of skates already. Last year we sharpened maybe 2 or 3. So that is, you know, the difference that we wanted to see. We've got 3.5 people in this department, and you know, that's been helping a lot, giving people a little extra time to take care of the little details. One employee at this point is out the rest of the week on medical. You know, which kind of puts us back to that normal strength. So it's still been watching that, and it's still been kind of an up and down in terms of staffing. So we're trying to keep an eye on all of that. But if you have any questions about that or about the numbers, I'm happy to answer them. As I said, they're not easy to decipher, and it's, you know, I've tried. Trust me, I've tried for 10 years to try to make sense, have it fit into a proper financial model, and it really doesn't.
I believe one question concern the board had at the last meeting was if you had any ideas on controlling the cash, physical cash.
Yeah. Yeah, so.
The checks and balances about the, you know, how they take the
Yep.
money.
Absolutely. So we have a reporting sheet. Every person on each shift gets their own. So when they take money, they're writing it down. They're verifying what they're doing and how they're doing it. They're signing a statement, and the cash in the box matches the cash on the, you know, on the sheet that they have. So we've got a kind of a check and balance that works for that. We do need to get a safe, so that's something that we really need to make a purchase of at some point. They do secure the funds right now, but I don't think it's good enough. I'm not happy with it, so I want to make sure we get something that's more secure.
Have a safe in the garage you can have right now.
Yep. and then we'll use that. If we can.
Post office safe, huh?
And we're gonna give
Not our problem.
It's a little heavy.
you, yeah.
Well, it's the first floor anyway, we're looking up the stairs.
The report that you got is all right and stuff, but what I'd like to see is a report on how much money they take in on skating, how much money they take in on ice sharpening, or skate sharpening and stuff like that, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I can do that. I have it broken out as, last year there was no differentiation between sharpening, and there were no rentals. It was really just a pro shop category.
Right.
And that's where we're putting everything right now, what you're referencing. So we could probably use that accounting sheet that I just mentioned and,
Okay.
and just come up with, so if you're looking for revenue, we have all of that broken out by pro shop, by ads, by snack bar, public skate, stick and puck, open skate, and rental revenue. Those are all broken out, right? So I can get that, that's easy. But to really determine how many people actually rented skates and how many people got them sharpened, and how many people showed up for stick and puck or public skate, that's a different, those are just like attendance numbers, which we can probably do.
Okay, that's what I'd like to see.
Okay,
So,
yeah, that's
All right.
perfect. Yep, reasonable.
Thank you.
And I can say as a general comment about the report, that I agree with it. It basically shows what my research from last year and the figures that I've obtained for this year is that we are down so far on revenue. I mean, so far along in the year, not down so far.
Right.
But it does show a negative of revenue from over last year.
Right.
We're under the revenue.
Yeah, you're correct, and there's a direct correlation between that difference and the month of October. Because we did open late. We knew we did, we knew that was gonna be an issue, and that's literally about $4,400, and that is, we're 4,300 difference low on revenue.
I had a figure anywhere between 3,100 and 44.
Yeah, that's exactly right, and you know, it ends up being that because we've obviously had that staffing difference, that's why we're saving money this year. Nobody's getting cocky on the rec center right now. It's, the trend is better, that we're managing the expense with the rentals. You know, so we're not putting people on when there's nobody in the facility. You know, that's the difference.
Something I requested 2 weeks ago, and thank you for giving it to us.
My pleasure.